My name's Mark, and you're listening to Headstraight. Hello, you lot, and welcome back. Today, we're talking about something quite important. What legacy are you leaving right now? When people hear the word legacy, they usually think about the end of life, big achievements, long speeches, something people say about you when you're not in the room anymore. But that version of legacy can feel distant, almost irrelevant, especially if you're just trying to get through the week. So, let's strip it back. Because legacy isn't something you leave behind one day. It's something that you're building quietly every single day without really noticing. It's in how people feel after being around you, whether they feel calmer or more tense, seen or dismissed, steadier or more on edge. It's the reputation that you're creating without trying. And the uncomfortable truth is this: you already have one. Not because you're famous, not because you're important, but because humans remember how other humans make them feel. This episode isn't about pressure. It's not about making your mark or doing something extraordinary. It's about recognizing that how you show up in ordinary moments is shaping who you're becoming. And once you see that, you get to choose. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just deliberately. So let's talk about what legacy really looks like in real life, and how to live it in a way that actually matters, starting now. Now, most people think legacy is about milestones, big moments, big wins, big stories. But that's not how it actually works. Legacy isn't built in highlights. It's built in patterns. How you usually respond when things are tense. How you usually treat people when no one's watching. How you usually handle mistakes, stress, boredom, frustration. Those usuallys matter far more than the occasional big moment, because people don't remember everything you did. They remember what it was like to be around you. And that's shaped by repetition. If you're usually calm, people feel steadier around you. If you're usually reactive, people brace themselves. If you're usually kind, people relax. If you're usually distant, then people keep their guard up. None of that requires a big decision. It comes from lots of small ones. That's why legacy isn't something you suddenly create later in life. It's something you practice, quietly, every day. But there's good news in that. You don't need to wait for the right moment to matter. You don't need a platform. You don't need to be extraordinary. You're already shaping how people experience the world, just by you being in it. Which brings us to something subtle but really powerful. Because if legacy is built through repetition, then presence is doing a lot of the work. Now, most people think reputation is built on what you say about yourself. You know what? It isn't. It's built on how you show up, consistently. Your presence teaches people things about you long before you ever explain who you are. They learn whether you're safe to be honest with, whether you escalate or steady things, whether you listen or just wait for your turn to speak, whether you take responsibility when things go wrong. And they learn all of that without you trying to teach them. Presence is what people remember when they can't remember your words. It's why someone can say, "I don't know why, but I just trust them." Or, "Things just feel calmer when they're around." That doesn't come from charisma. It comes from consistency. From living in a way that lines up more often than it doesn't. And here's the really important part. You don't need to manage this. You don't need to perform it. You just need to be aware of the patterns you're already creating. Because once you're aware, you can adjust gently. Not to impress anyone, not to curate an image, just to live in a way that sits right with you. Which brings us to a reflective pause, one that helps you to see your life from a slightly wider angle. Now, this part isn't about goals or motivation or planning your whole future. It's about perspective. The legacy letter is a simple exercise, but it can be surprisingly steadying. The way to do it is to imagine yourself a few years from now, not wildly different, not sorted, just a bit further along. And you write to that version of you. Not about achievements or success, but about how you hope you're living. You might write things like, I hope you're still choosing calm over chaos. I hope you're still taking responsibility when it's uncomfortable. I hope you're still kind without being a doormat. I hope you didn't lose yourself trying to fit in. What matters isn't the wording. What matters is that you're naming the patterns you want to keep practicing. Because legacy isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more consistent with what already matters to you. And when life gets noisy, which it will, that letter becomes a reference point. It's not a rule book, just a reminder. This is the kind of person I'm trying to be. This is how I want to show up. And that clarity, even loosely held, shapes decisions in a way you don't always notice at the time. Which brings us to the final piece of the season. Now, you don't need a 5-year plan to live with impact. You just need alignment between what matters to you and how you actually behave. The impact alignment plan is deliberately small. You choose 3 ways that you want to show up over the next month. Not goals, not achievements. You choose ways of being. Things like staying calmer under pressure, speaking more honestly even when it's awkward, being more reliable in the spaces you already occupy. And that's it. No perfection, no pressure. Because alignment isn't about getting it right every time. It's about noticing when you drift and gently returning. That's how identity is built. Not through declarations, through repetition. And when you live like this, even imperfectly, something important happens. Life feels more solid. Decisions feel less scattered. Your presence carries weight without effort. Not because you're trying to matter, but because you're living as if you already do. So let me set this week's challenge. I want you to write your Living Like It Matters plan for the next month. Just 3 things, and put it somewhere you'll see it. Not to judge yourself, but to remind yourself who you're practicing being. And to bring the season to a close, I just want you to remember this. You don't have to be loud, famous, or perfect to matter. You don't have to change the world. You just have to live like your presence counts. Because it already does. And also, I want to thank you for allowing me to help you along this journey. Because that's been important to me too. Next time, we're going to take a look back on the whole of season 5. We're going to talk about all the important things that you've done, that you've worked through, and the achievements that you've made. Because you have. So, are you up for it? Of course you are.